Coming up on the live stream, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh Macaroni claims that Trump has made Juneteenth famous, and to back that up, explains that she hasn't seen a single mention of it in a tweet from Frederick Douglass. Let's dive in to the live stream. Welcome, everyone, to the live stream. I am your host, Heavenly Father, Kevin Williams, and we are going to be talking about Kayleigh Macaroni today because she's doing a press conference. This press conference has already happened. I was on hold with unenjoyment for 4 hours, but they told me my problems might be solved. So after a scant 3 months, I might actually get some unemployment money. We'll see what happens. I'm not hoping on it. Happy Friday, Kim. Jump on into the chat room. I see we're live now because Kim has come into the chat room. Thank you, Kim. If you'd like to be like Kim and be one of our wonderful patrons, then absolutely go to kevinlyfather.com. There you can patronize me. Give me a few dollars here or there and help this sort of thing happen. Because, no, I'm not betting on unemployment showing up. Hello, David, and hi, producer Debbie. Good to see you. All right, let's get going with this. I've already watched this because I was on hold for 4 hours, so I have some fact checks ready to go. If you guys have stuff to bring it in as well, I'd love to see it. Hi, Centaur Trump. Hey, Chris. Good to see you. Let's get going here.
Good afternoon, everyone. The Great American Comeback is underway. Just before joining you all, we learned from the Bureau of Labor Statistics that unemployment has fallen in 43 states in May as Americans are going back to work. Also, I would like to re-emphasize the numbers that Director of the NEC, Larry Kudlow, shared with you all yesterday, that the CBO
Producer Joanna,
that in the third quarter we will get plus 20% GDP. They've predicted in Q4 we will be at plus 20% GDP. And top economist Ed Hyman says that in Q1 of 2021 he's predicting plus 5 in GDP, and this would put.
So that tells us that our GDP loss for this second quarter is going to be somewhere near 30%, which is what I said, people. But they haven't released that yet. But if you do the math backwards on that, I haven't. But if you do it, let me know, because, you know, there's 18,000 police officers in the United States. Fact check. Let's go back on this.
Be at plus 20% GDP and.
And again, the only reason, hi Lizzie, hey doctor, hey Green Room, good to see you, producer Green Room. The only reason that we're able to get these big boosts in GDP is because the GDP was so terrible because coronavirus, because testing, because Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Top economist Ed Hyman. That in the
Let's go back on this. This is important.
We will get plus 20% GDP. They've predicted in Q4 we will be at plus 20% GDP. And top economist Ed Hyman says that in Q1 of 2021 he's predicting plus 5 in GDP, and this would put GDP above its 2019 peak. That's right. So pre-coronavirus numbers, should those predictions pan out.
Woohoo! Ed Hyman predicted we're going to be above 2019 in the second quarter of 2021. Woo! We're back, people. You know, Ed Hyman. Hold on. I have that article. Ed Hyman says slowing but no recession in the forecast. Yes! He's our guy. And that's from August 30th of 2007, right before the Great Recession. Probably should have checked out that date before I pulled that article. Let's go back to some macaroni.
We are back and we will be booming. Second to finally, we are encouraged that we continue to gather positive data on a number of therapeutics. Heparin, dexamethasone, or steroids, as it's more commonly known, convalescent plasma, and remdesivir.
Mark, we're going to cover the GDP in a little while here. I think she refers to it, or I was reading the Wall Street Journal article that Trump did, which is a good article, by the way. I'm kind of debating, since you have to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal to read the articles, I'm kind of debating going through the article with you guys at some point later or on Saturday. It's a good article. It's very insightful. But I know a lot of you don't have subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal. So, David, ethically, what can I do that? Can I just read the whole publication? I don't know how it works. Okay, yeah, waterproof mascara. Nice, Chris.
Have all shown promise in treating coronavirus. Preliminary findings in a large UK-based recovery trial found that when steroids were used, there was a 30% reduction in death for coronavirus patients on ventilators. The FDA is reviewing this recovery trial data now. Additionally, on convalescent plasma, there is more encouraging news in partnership with Mayo Clinic. The Trump administration moved very quickly on this therapy in its earliest days, recognizing that it showed promise. Though through the FDA, Mayo Clinic, and the administration's work in our hand-in-hand partnership, we've found that this treatment is very promising. This has shown that the administration has left no stone unturned in looking at every possible treatment at the very earliest stages. The lead investigator of this Mayo Clinic study, Dr. Michael Joyner, summed up his work in saying that convalescent plasma, quote, continues to look promising, end quote, noting the, quote, excellent news of this study, which covered a diverse population of patients. About 20% were African American, nearly 35% Hispanic, 5% Asian, and 40% women. Prior experience with respiratory viruses and some data that have emerged globally suggests that convalescent plasma has the potential to lessen the severity or shorten the length of the illness caused by COVID-19. The results from Mayo underscore that promise. As you can see, the Trump administration and the FDA led on identifying convalescent plasma as a therapeutic, and the results are encouraging. Finally, I wanted to share some words from President Trump. Juneteenth reminds us of both the unimaginable injustice of slavery and the incomparable joy that must have attended emancipation. It is both a remembrance of a blight on our history and a celebration of our nation's unsurpassed ability to triumph over darkness. That ability is rooted in the fundamental goodness of America and the truths upon which we as a nation declared an end to our status as the subjects of a monarch and emerged as a free and independent people. Those truths that all men are created equal by the hand of God, endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that, I'll take questions. Mario.
Okay, so she talks about Donald Trump and Juneteenth. He did not know what it was. So here's the article. I'm going to read just the snippet from the Wall Street Journal, and you can read along with me. Mr. Bender, the interviewer, you did move your rally off Juneteenth. Can you talk about why you did that? Well, I did that out of respect because I had 2 African-American friends and supporters. And most people, and I went to a lot of people, they had not heard the term Juneteenth. Mr. Bender, do you know what it was? I did something good. I made it famous. I made Juneteenth very famous. It's actually an important event. It's an important time. But nobody had heard of it. Nobody. Very soon, people have heard of it. Actually, a young African-American Secret Service agent knew what it was. I had political people who had no idea. Nobody knew what it was. Did you ever hear of Juneteenth before? And Ms. Farah says, I did from last year when the White House put out a statement. Oh, really? We put out a statement? The Trump White House put out a statement? Yes. Oh, okay, good. He'd never heard of it. Back to Kaylee.
Thank you, Kaylee. I'm wondering, given what we're seeing in markets and they're a little bit jittery given a rise in cases, any reason why the coronavirus task force hasn't been coming out to update us? Will they? And then also, have they been consulted on the rally for tomorrow?
So the coronavirus task force meets regularly. They're constantly reviewing
twice
data.
A week.
They're constantly working with governors to ensure that we have safe reopenings across the nation. As for coronavirus task force briefings, those happened in the very early days of COVID-19 and the pandemic. We were making major decisions on travel bans, major decisions on supplies and PPE and therapeutics. It was very important that those decisions be shared with the nation. Now we're in a more regular routine where when we see a spike or an ember, as the president calls them, we're able to quickly go and put it out, and we have that system in place. We don't have regular updates for you other than the updates I give you as news merits, and I'm regularly in consultation with Dr. Birx and the others. Yes, Steve.
Kaylee, 2 questions for you. First, on the president's tweet this morning regarding the Tulsa rally when he said,
Hey, Barbara.
what did he mean when he said any protesters? wouldn't be treated like they were in New York, Seattle, and Minneapolis. Is the president indicating that the right to peaceably assemble should not apply to his rally?
No, that's not at all what he was saying. What the president was noting is that there were inexcusable scenes that we saw play out in New York and Seattle and Minneapolis, and that we would not see Tulsa, Oklahoma look that way. As the Mayor Bynum noted, individuals from organized groups who have been involved in destructive and violent behavior in other states are planning to travel to the city of Tulsa for the purposes of causing unrest in and around the rally, and that was an unacceptable proposition. We will not see things like what we saw in Minnesota, where rioters lit an AutoZone on fire, or also in Minnesota, where protesters torched a police precinct, or in Seattle, where they've now set up a place called CHOP. They've taken over a part of the city, anarchists have.
Hey, Steph. Hey, JC.
Or the ambushing of 2 NYPD police
Kathleen?
officers who were on looting watch. One was stabbed in the neck and then shot 2 other officers who later arrived on the scene. So those kinds of scenes are unacceptable, and we will not see that in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
He doesn't mean all protesters?
No, what he was meaning are violent protesters, anarchists, looters, the kind of lawlessness that we saw play out before President Trump came in with the National Guard and calmed our streets.
Follow-up question. Why didn't he say violent protesters? Why did he just say protesters?
Streets with law and order.
I'm sure that's going to be the next question here.
On DACA, the president again tweeted this morning.
Nope, I guess not. Okay. Hey, Cam. Hey, Centaur.
That he was going to move ahead with trying to end that program. What is the time frame on that? When should we expect to see something from the Department of Homeland Security on that? And why is the president doing that, even when he has conceded that he believes that the immigrants who were brought here as children on no fault of their own should be taken care of?
So first, one note on DACA. One thing I would say about yesterday's ruling is that really this was a situation where you had all of the justices saying that President Trump was essentially right on the law on DACA.
They did not.
You had the majority, and the majority opinion,
no.
Quote, the dispute before the court is not whether DHS may rescind DACA. All parties agree that it may be rescinded. The dispute is instead primarily about the procedure the agency followed.
May be rescinded. They didn't say that it can be or shall be or should be rescinded. And the fact is that the Trump paperwork on it was just so sloppy and capricious that they said, we're not even going to rule on it. Just take it back. We're not interested. Now, I saw all sorts of commentators yesterday on television saying, oh, yeah, well, he doesn't want to get into a politically charged atmosphere right now, so he probably won't pursue it. No. And I said this last night, as soon as Trump was told, no, you can't do something, he will double down and he will tell everyone who works for him, push this through, get this done, drop everything else. Forget about the coronavirus or whatever it is you're working on. Get DACA pushed through the Supreme Court with the right paperwork. And according to his tweet this morning, that's what's going to happen.
In doing so. So in other words, President Trump was right on the law here.
Hey, Danielle.
It was unlawful
hey,
the way President Obama went about this. But as for the way forward, I just was in and was speaking with the president and the chief of staff about this. And we're looking at documents currently. And we're going to move forward in a responsible way and cure some of the remedies and the unlawfulness that we see with the previous memo that brought DACA into place. But we want to find a compassionate way to do this. So that's the notes I have as to how we'll be moving forward. Kristen.
Thank you, Kayla.
Quick reminder on DACA, back in 2000, was it 17 or was it 18? Trump said, just bring me a law, and whatever law you want, I'll sign it. That's what he said to a joint session of Senate. And the Senate, with Dick Durbin and whoever it was on the Republican side. Anyway, they came up with a bipartisan solution that took care of DACA, gave Trump $20 billion for the wall, and he decided not to sign it. That's what happened.
Now that we're about 24 hours away from this rally tomorrow in Tulsa, you have the World Health Organization director saying that the world is in a new and dangerous phase in terms of COVID cases. You have cases rising in Oklahoma. You have the Tulsa mayor declaring a civil emergency. Given all of this together, are there any discussions, any reservations within the West Wing about going forward with this indoor rally tomorrow in a state where COVID cases are on the rise?
Well, first, let me note about the civil emergency. Bynum declared a civil emergency after law enforcement informed the mayor about the individuals from the organized groups that I just noted who are intent on engaging in destruction. But with regard to Oklahoma, I would refer you to Governor Stitt's comments. He said yesterday we went to phase 3 on June 1st, so we're 56 days into our reopening plan, and currently we have under 200 people in the hospital across Oklahoma, and he welcomed the president and his supporters for coming.
But I guess
200 people and rising.
I guess my question is, behind the scenes, are there any White House officials, just expressing a bit of reservation about going forward?
Like Kaylee's going to tell
24
you.
hours out?
So we are all on board with going to Oklahoma. We're taking appropriate measures like hand sanitizing and temperature checks and masks being provided at the door. But I'd also note to you from the governor of Oklahoma that he says that most of the cases he's seeing are in the 18 to 35 group, where they're seeing a slight increase, and they are asymptomatic individuals, a lot of what they're seeing. And in addition to that, I would also
Those
just
damn
note,
kids.
that he said that this slight increase was expected as they began to safely reopen 56 days prior. Jen, yes. Hopefully, I'll limit you to 20 questions today. How about that?
Thanks, Kaylee. Will any White House officials be at the rally tomorrow?
There will be several White House officials at the rally tomorrow.
Will those officials, or will you be there, for example?
I will be there.
Will you and other White House officials be wearing masks at the rally?
It's a personal choice. I won't be wearing a mask. I can't speak for my colleagues.
And why won't you wear a mask? Is it sort of a personal political statement? Is it because the president would be disappointed in you if you don't wear a mask?
It's a
Why is
personal decision. I'm tested regularly. I feel that it's safe for me not to be wearing a mask, and I'm in compliance with CDC guidelines, which are recommended but not required.
And if I can ask you about last night, the president tweeted out some fake videos, one of which was labeled manipulated media by Twitter. Why is the president sharing fake videos on Twitter about two toddlers who are obviously showing a lot of love for one another? It seems as though he's exploiting children to make some sort of crass political point.
No.
Why is he sharing fake videos?
He was making a point about CNN specifically. He was making a point that CNN has regularly taken him out of context, that in 2019...
Yeah, let's watch the toddlers. So this was tweeted out by the president yesterday, and Twitter tagged it as manipulated media. Here it is right here. And it's from Carpe Donktum, who was one of the president's favorite editors, we'll call him. And here's the video before we get into the questions about it. Breaking news, terrified toddler runs from racist. Racist baby, probably a Trump voter. Oh crap, I can't play this because it's a copyrighted song. I'll get a copyright strike from YouTube if I play this. So basically he's saying that CNN takes stuff and turns it into racism because of Trump, blah, 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 blaming it on Trump, and that the actual thing is often very different, and the two toddlers hug each other, and they play, and then they run after each other. And then this part. Again, he's still got the copyrighted song going there, so I can't play it. America's not the problem. Fake news is. So there is no racism. Racism does not exist in the United States. It's the media. That's the problem. Fake news is. And if you see anything, say something. If you see something, say something. That's a 9/11 catchphrase, but okay. And stop it. Only you can prevent fake news dumpster fires. Man, Carpe, you could have done something better with that. Anyway, that's the tweet that we're talking about right now. Let's get rid of this. Boop. Come on, go away. Nobody's interested. Back to KK.
CNN misleadingly aired a clip from...
Wait, did they miss... At Random is so good with the proofreading. Did they misspell toddler? You can't spell... Hold on. Carpe. I have to... I can't even type. Hold on. Good catch at Random. See, I have a reading thing going on. I think I've told you guys about it before. As I'm looking for this, hold on. When I was young, Kevin Lee's older sister had a reasoning disorder, and she's 2 years my elder, and they made her do all kinds of special classes and stuff like that. And I read things in a strange way, but I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to do all the extra work that I saw Kevin Lee's older sister having to do. So... and it was never figured out. Nobody knows what's wrong with me. So very much. Here it is again. Toddler. You're right. Terrified. Todler. Wow. It doesn't... I probably shouldn't even play this part because he probably stole this music from Halloween or something. Oh, wow. Toddler racist baby, probably a Trump voter. What? Stop it. Actually happened. Well, that's spelled correctly. But yeah, when you're using After Effects, which is, I'm guessing, what Carpe Diem, Carpe Dopum, what's his name? Donctum. Carpe Donctum. So seize the Donctum. Yeah, so toddler is misspelled. Wow. That is so Trump. And I'm a terrible speller. But come on. There are other people on the planet that can help you. I don't know if Carpe Donctum has any friends. Carpe Donctum, if you're watching this, friend me. I'll be your friend. I'll help you with your projects. And honestly, it's just I can't stand to see things that could be clever just not being clever. And I know you've got it sometimes. Brush it off somebody. And don't brush it off your friends, because I should say bounce it off your friends, because they're not helping. Back to Kay. Let's check up on the catch here. The cash. Speaking of cash, if you'd like to support me, go to kevinleefather.com. All right, let's ramp up to the chat here. On Facebook, my family told me, this is Stephanie, on Facebook, my family told me to get off Twitter and quit watching the fake news. I just post Trump's tweets. What's fake about that? Well, honestly, everything's fake about his tweets. Megas can't spell. I'm looking for a spelling mistake in there, Kathleen. There isn't one. I love irony, but you're not giving me any there. What's sad, it was probably spell checked. I think you're probably right, Doctor. I'm guessing Carpe. I don't know. Carpe, again, if you're watching, because I never know. I get responses from these things. I never know who's watching. A lot of people are watching that aren't in the chat room, and I love you all. Chris Wilson says, I was arguing with a guy today that Hitler wasn't a socialist. I referred him to Snoops. As in dog? He really didn't appreciate your work, David. David, I didn't realize that you had a collab going with Snoops. Doggy dog. Speaking of spelling. But you know what? I shouldn't say anything about disparaging about our generous donator. He makes donaires and then gives them out. Chris Wilson, 38 cents. Thank you. There we go. Let's move on.
One viewpoint repeatedly to falsely accuse the Covington boys of being, quote, student him out of
this is about
context. That in 2019, CNN misleadingly aired a clip from One Viewpoint repeatedly to falsely accuse the Covington boys of being, quote, students in MAGA gear harassing a Native American elder. That's a harassing video, a misleading video about children that had really grave consequences for their future.
So you're saying it's okay to exploit two toddlers hugging one another on a sidewalk to make some sort of political point. As you know, the president has described members of the press as fake news during the course of this administration. When you share fake videos like that,
yeah, she has a binder full of notes.
Fake news?
I think the president was making a satirical point that was quite funny if you go and actually watch the video. I think he was making a...
I did watch the video, and was it funny? Did anybody find it funny? I get what they're trying to do there, but...
He was making a satire... The point is...
Later in the evening, the president tweeted another video that was actually pretty well put together about... but don't bother. We're not going to watch it.
CNN repeatedly taking the president out of context. Like the time when you guys had a chyron that read, Trump slams some illegal immigrants. They're animals. Well, guess what? The people we called animals were MS-13 illegal immigrants who regularly mute.
She's correct there. And the left went nuts with that quote, saying that he was calling the immigrants aminals, because he misspelled it. No, it was live speaking. And I call them aminals so often in regular speech. If you knew me, you'd know this, that sometime when I'm trying to be professional, or now, I sometimes call them aminals. Yeah, he was referring to MS-13 members when he called them animals, but several people in the press and the left wing went nuts with it. When they go low, we lose.
Mutilate people in this country. Those things are entirely misleading.
Noel didn't find it funny. Cam didn't find it. No.
He has tried to pass a Muslim ban in this country. He has described black NFL players as sons of bitches if they take a knee during a football game.
That's an absurd attempt to justify the misleading headline. Things are.
Okay, so when she does it, it's fine. It's not whataboutism. When Jim Acosta mentions, hey, what about the president saying the president? We forget that. The president of the United States attacks people in this way. That's absurd.
Entirely misleading.
You don't mind pointing out the president has referred to some Mexican immigrants as rapists. He has tried to...
That is accurate. It was some, and some, I assume, are good people.
...pass a Muslim ban in this country.
He did attempt to pass a Muslim ban, and it was on his website even after the election.
He's described black NFL players as sons of bitches if they
did that too.
take a knee
That's
during
an
a football
absurd
game.
that's an absurd attempt to justify the misleading headlines that are regularly on your network. Like, I was just walking in watching CNN as they lauded the quote rallies in the streets.
Are you saying that the president
Gotta let me lines that are regularly on your network. Like, I was just walking in watching CNN as they lauded the quote rallies in the streets.
Are you saying that the president
Gotta let me.
So she just walked in, and she saw it on TV as she was walking in. Did she? And she walked in at 35 minutes past the hour. Now, if only we had some sort of idea what she was watching on CNN at 35 minutes past the hour. This is CNN, according to Kaylee, lauding the rallies. Let me go this way. Juneteenth rallies nationwide amid America's racial unrest. That's CNN stating a fact. That's not lauding the rallies. But this is the way that the right wing sees things. They see this as a personal attack on the right wing. Okay, so let's just take a quick look here. Boom, boom, boom. I can't really zoom in. You're gonna have to trust me when I do this. You can see mask, 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 mask. Mask, 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 mask. She is not wearing a mask. I don't even know what she's doing there because she appears to have some sort of lanyards on. She might be press. I don't know, but there's one person without a mask. Oh, hold on. This guy here with the giant head, he's not wearing a mask. Boom, libtards.
Let me finish, Jim. This isn't a cable news segment. I'm answering your question right now from the White House podium. When I walk out of here, when I walk out here, Jim.
So she's better, and she gets to answer the question because she's answering it from the White House podium. Let me put that into context. Jim Acosta pays taxes, a lot of taxes. She is an employee of Jim Acosta. Jim Acosta works for CNN. He is not an employee of Kaylee Macaroni.
When I walk out here, Jim, and I see on your network celebratory headlines about the rallies and the protests outside, and you actually said protests and rallies. So in light of a protest, if these gatherings happen in light of a protest or a rally, as you say, that rally is to be condoned, but not the president's rally. I mean, it's appalling. You have one person on your network saying that this is a celebration in the streets, a carnival-like atmosphere. There's a guy with a sign that says free hugs. It's beautiful what's happening in the streets. There is music. People are hugging. You celebrate hugging in the context of a protest, but in a Trump rally.
One person on the network.
Where we celebrate historic low African American unemployment, criminal justice reform, HBCUs. That rally's not allowed because guess what, Jim? It doesn't fit the ideological agenda of CNN. Peter Alexander.
Let me ask if I can, Kaylee, why does the president keep hiring people who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent?
So the president makes hiring decisions.
I love Peter Alexander. Someday I'm going to marry that woman.
Based on the fact that he likes to have countervailing viewpoints. I spoke to him this morning about the hiring of John Bolton in particular, and he said, I like to counterbalance my own opinion with individuals that oftentimes have the very opposite opinion of my own. He likes the model of having a team of rivals, like what we saw in President Lincoln's administration. I've been a part of that. I often see rigorous debate, and the president uses his gut and makes the best decision as to how to move forward. So
she often sees rigorous debate. She's not involved in it.
That's what goes into his hiring practices, and I think the team of rivals, I've been a part of that. I often see rigorous debate, and the president uses his gut and makes the best decision as to how to move forward. So that's what goes into his hiring practices, and I think the team of rivals with President Lincoln worked quite well.
There's obviously value in hiring a team of rivals.
Work quite well. And that is my report on the book. Thank you.
It's worked well in the past, but then if you're going to hire rivals, why?
You guys are chatting this up right now. Chris says, yes, I'm sure everyone at tomorrow's night's Knuckle Dragger Jamboree will be there to celebrate low black unemployment. Undoubtedly. That's why I'm going to the Home Depot Corona Bowl. Marfa says, this is very hard to listen to. Sorry. You can turn the volume down. You know what I wish? I wish I had an interpreter. Because whenever one of the governors is speaking, by the way, why don't we have an interpreter at the White House briefing room? It seems ridiculous that we don't. All I watch is the interpreter in the background doing it, and their facial expression. It's fantastic. Thank you, Producer Debbie. This is why we have me, Maria, so you don't have to listen to her. Yeah, we love Peter Alexander. He's always asking the tough questions, but he's a nasty, nasty reporter, which we love. Yeah, the comparisons to Lincoln, they hurt. Cam says that is the most BS to date from press secretary. Yeah, it's very well. I don't know. I don't have a BS meter for her. It's all off. It's like nobody's ever heard before. Deaf people aren't real Americans. Not in the White House, they're not. Just KK's lies, not you. Oh, well, thank you. As long as you can put up with my lies, I'm happy. I'm just here to comment and make Kevin more money. Thank you, Blinker. I appreciate that. Rick Mackey, but Lincoln wasn't perfect either. No, Lincoln wasn't. Lincoln would have been happy with some of the SCOTUS opinions lately. Moving on.
Hire rivals who are dumb as a rock, overrated, way over their heads, wacko, and incompetent. How does that help?
Well, sometimes
the
those
president?
I really wish that during this Peter had said, wacko and incompetent. Should we play Kaylee? Hold on. I have Kaylee from a while ago. Just in case you haven't seen this, this is Kaylee Macaroni.
Absolutely. This put America first. He will always protect American citizens. We will not see diseases like the coronavirus come here.
I don't know if it played the whole clip because I can't hear it, but if it didn't, let me know. But she's basically saying that the coronavirus won't come here because President Trump won't allow it. Wacko.
Rivals prove those labels to be true, and that's particularly true in the case of John Bolton, who repeatedly praised the.
And again, the question is, why would you hire these wacko people? The president lauded in the actual sense of the word Bolton before he hired him, and I could go back and who cares?
The president then turned. He's been widely criticized by the New York Times for his book. I think John Bolton has proven himself to have those labels as true.
Let me follow up just on Juneteenth, Kaylee, it's important. If I can follow up quickly, just on Juneteenth, if I may.
We're not going to get to everyone in the room. The 20 question rule applies to everyone. Yes.
Okay. So I'll take the 20 questions if it applies to everyone. Then I've only done 2 so far. For my third one, I'd like to ask, does the president support Juneteenth as a federal holiday? And yesterday, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal this week, the president was speaking about Juneteenth, and he said that nobody had ever heard of Juneteenth. What does that say about the president's relationship to the black community if he would say that?
Or reality.
That when millions of African Americans in this country commemorate it each year.
Well, look, what I would say is this president's routinely commemorated Juneteenth. The president, what he said is...
You said he learned about it this week.
No, he did not say that. As Secretary Carter...
That's a great comment. David points out Trump has done more for incompetent staff than any president since Lincoln. Fact check.
Emphasized. I talked to the president about the Juneteenth event. I was pleasantly surprised about how much he knew about it, the whole history of it. He did not just learn about Juneteenth this week. That's simply not true. And
that's what he said we just read the Wall Street interview.
As to Juneteenth, there were a lot of people who didn't know what Juneteenth was, and Google searches prove that. And you can see, I looked at the chart on Google searches on Juneteenth, and this year they went like this, and that's thanks to President Trump. Yes.
And that's actually a good thing that people researched Juneteenth. I did 1 year of schooling in the United States, and the history book that we had was in California, which means that it was improved in Texas. And if you know anything about the Texas school board, not the repository, that's a bad news time for Kennedy, but how school books in this country get approved, most states go by what the Texas school board decides. And they get to decide what's in the history books and what's not in the history books. And the text makers oblige, because otherwise the textbook makers don't make any money. So yeah, when I went to school, I don't remember reading anything about the Tulsa Massacre in 1921. Nothing. I could be wrong. Maybe I missed that day. I don't know. But to me, that's what an outrage in American history, and no mention of it in the books. Mr. LeBeau, if you're watching, chime in here on the chat room or send me a Facebook message if you're watching, Mr. LeBeau. Did we learn about the Tulsa Massacre? Again, this is 400 years ago when I was in high school.
I wanted to ask if the White House is planning to issue an executive order in the coming days to suspend visas for foreign workers, and any detail you can provide in terms of what types of visas, for how long that would last, etc.
So I have no announcements on that front today. I'm aware of the reporting, but no announcements.
Okay, could I follow up quickly and ask if the president plans to take any health precautions at the rally tomorrow?
Thank you, Collins.
We are administering hand sanitizer, masks to those who are in attendance should they decide to wear them, and we are taking temperature checks. Daniel.
Okay. She has to look at her notes, and we are taking temperature checks.
Arizona's seen surging coronavirus cases as well.
Okay, so Saleh, you took high school in 97. Does anybody learn about it in high school? Chris, I know. Thank you. I'm being very cautious drinking and going down ramps lately. Yeah. Who are you going to believe, me or the president's own lying words? Good question, David.
As well as Texas and Florida. Does the president think that they should all keep doing what they're doing, or is he concerned about, this rise in cases and how to stop that?
This is a state-led reopening with the assistance of the federal government and our medical experts, so we're regularly consulting with each state. It's their decision as to whether they remain their reopening processes, but we're very confident that they will be able to get it under control. We've had CDC deploy teams to 4 states, and when we see these spikes in cases, a lot of times, and we're able to isolate.
Hold on, 2 things. First, Chris Wilson said, I did not learn about it until college. Chris, you went to college? Secondly, Lisa says, unfortunately, I went to public school in Florida. They have schools in Florida? Press secretaries feel the pressure of this session. I don't know, but this is what's happened. She takes some questions. She reads from the binder until she's ready to get out of there. She's got a closing statement, a boom, a drop the binder moment. And she goes to OAN in the back of the room, who never wears a mask and isn't supposed to be there, and drops the binder and walks out. That's how these go. We're not actually getting any new information. Has there been any new information in any of these?
Isolate them and stop the spread further. So with the help of the federal government, these states should be able to safely continue reopening, though it is their decision whether to do so.
What does the president think of his niece, Mary Trump's new book that's coming out?
Yeah, so on the Mary Trump book, what I would say is this. I haven't seen the book. The president hasn't seen the book, so I'm not going to sit here and speculate about what it may say or what it may not say.
Thank God she had the binder open for that answer.
David.
Given all the hoo-ha over Tulsa, isn't the president taking a big risk this weekend? Because if things go south on Saturday, isn't that going to make it harder for him to schedule rallies in the future?
Look, I think that we are confident that we can operate safely in Tulsa. As I noted at the beginning of this, Governor Stitt said under 200 people are in hospitals across
Kevin
Oklahoma.
Stitz.
A lot of those, between the ages of 18 and 35. So we're confident that we can do this.
No, wrong. The new cases are between the ages of 18 and 35. Hospitalizations are still your typical hospitalization route. Now she's blaming the kids for clogging up the hospitals.
Safely, and we're very much looking forward to going.
There's a disconnect between causation and reality with these people. They can't. I don't know what it is. Some people, when you say like, oh, here is this blue dog, and the question is, how did it get blue? Oh, there's some paint, the blue paint. Oh, I bet the dog somehow it just happens automatically in some of our heads. And then, this with a conservative, you're talking, oh, there's a blue dog. Oh, there's some blue paint. God damn it, Antifa! Their brains just work in a different way.
To Oklahoma.
Why haven't y'all scheduled more rallies? Are y'all waiting to see how things turn out on Saturday?
That would be a question for the campaign. Yes.
David says here, more comments about high school. Let's go back to Lisa here. When my folks moved down here from New York, I was years ahead of the students my age. Years. That's in Florida. Yeah. Because she was 35. That's a side note. David says, my American history classes never made it past the 1880s before the school year ran out. Yes, in 1886.
Yes, thank you, Kaylee. Two quick questions. In an interview on NPR on Tuesday, Dr. Fauci said he hasn't spoken to the president in, quote, 2 weeks. Why have they gone so long without talking, and is this still a priority for the president, the virus?
Absolutely, it's
Chris,
still a priority.
no.
It's why the task force meets regularly. The president is given that information. The vice president has been leading on the task force, and the president ultimately makes the decisions and is constantly kept up to date with the latest numbers.
And then the second question, obviously, the president is very against violent protest. He's spoken out specifically against anti-fascists who've been responsible for some of this violence.
Yeah, the Antifa. Speaking of Antifa, here's at random replying to David. My high school literally divided up the 20th century into individual topics we each researched and did a report on. Mine was Escobedo and Miranda. But last 2 weeks of school, nobody listened. So I love that when they give everybody topics and they're like, you do the teaching. Mr. LeBeau, I'm talking to Lou. His name's not Lou. I got LeBeau and you mixed up in my mouth, and it came out as a portmanteau, or as I call them, a porto.
But in terms of his personal ideology, is the president an anti-fascist?
The president is absolutely anti-fascist. What he's against also is lawlessness. He's against anarchy. He's against what we've seen in our streets. He's against the fact that you have in a city block in Seattle, multiple city blocks taken over by anarchists. It's amazing. You have the Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best saying, quote, our 911 response times have tripled in the area. They've gone from just over 5 minutes to about 18 minutes. There have been rapes, robberies,
which it turns out is not the case,
and all sorts of violent acts that have been occurring. He's against fascism. He's against...
Damn it, at random, it's not 3 blocks in a soccer field. Stop spreading your liberal propaganda in this room. It's 3 blocks in a soccer pitch.
Anarchism, and he is for rule of law and the American way. Christian.
Thanks, Kaylee. The EU nations are starting to ease their travel restrictions between their own borders. Is the president planning?
No, we don't. At least not in my single year. I took 1 year of American history, and there was no Irish history at all. We had American history, we had American government. Those were the requirements in California in order to graduate. So I had those. Now, in Canada, in Africa, in England, of course, I learned all about all kinds of different countries' histories. But in the States, at least in my 1 year as a senior, we didn't cover anything else in any other country, which moving here after living all over the world, I was just amazed at how little Americans knew about the rest of the world when we knew so much about America, because that's where the media comes from.
On rolling back the EU travel restrictions. He said back in May that they'll probably ease them out sometime in the future.
The president knows that the travel restrictions were a very important component to saving lives. Almost 3 million could have perished, and those travel restrictions were instrumental in taking early action.
Americans in the room, did you take world history in high school? Was that a requirement anywhere?
And saving American lives. He monitors the data constantly. No plans now as to lifting those. But it's ultimately the decision of the president. He's guided by data and the safety and health of the American people.
And then on China, they just announced that during the...
President Trump, guided by the data. Guided by the data. Here's Oklahoma. There was Oklahoma. There it is. There's Oklahoma. Guided by the data. He's our data president.
Negotiations with Secretary Pompeo. They're going to accelerate their ag buys. They weren't meeting the phase 1 ag buys.
He's been our data president since the flu of 1917.
Does this mean anything for a potential phase 2 deal? Obviously, this stalled the coronavirus, but...
I have no announcements on that front. I haven't spoken to the president on that specific matter. Yes.
Thanks, Sailor.
Back to DACA, if you would, please. After the Supreme Court decision the other day, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement. I'll just read it briefly. Next, we urge the President, President Trump, to strongly reconsider terminating DACA. Immigrant communities are really hurting now amidst COVID-19, and moving forward with this action needlessly places many families into further anxiety and chaos. Will the President consider the Bishop's appeal of this?
Well, the president said to me, I'm going to take care of DACA far better than the Democrats ever did. Democrats had 2.5 years to make a deal on DACA. They didn't do it. He wants to take care of these individuals, but it needs to be done in a lawful way, and it needs
Fact check on that. The Democrats didn't have 2.5 years because the Republican Senate was already in place and Mitch wouldn't touch it. There was the Gang of 8 that Republicans and Democrats got together and said, hey, let's fix immigration. But no, Mitch would never allow it to come to a vote on the Senate floor. It's 100% that Mitch.
It needs to be done in accordance with assuring that our border is safe, that it's protected, that we have an end to lawless immigration and MS-13 and the havoc that we've seen wreaked in this country. So he's for a measured response, and he's offered deals to Democrats previously that have been rejected. So Democrats really seem to be using the DACA recipients as pawns, and that
Again, President Trump said, I will sign whatever you guys bring to me at a roundtable. They brought it to him, and he wouldn't sign it. Fact check from David with Snopes here. Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best denied claims that officers in her department have been instructed not to respond to 911 calls in the CHOP or CHAZ. And that's true. There are police officers are literally, when I've been there, there's police officers standing right over there, which you guys can't see. It's just yonder, which I learned from spending a week in North Carolina. Yonder can be anywhere from 2 feet to 28 miles. It's a great word.
is despicable. Emily.
Thank you, Kaylee. Given that the campaign
Whoa, who's got jelly beans? Guys, we're going to stop this right now. Producer Debbie?
had attendees of the rally on Saturday sign a waiver to indemnify the campaign if they...
You know, it's really good at the belly flops you can get at some grocery outlets, like the jelly beans that failed the testing. So they're cheap, and they're available at your local gross out.
...get sick with the coronavirus. Would the president consider starting or contributing to a fund for the sick or the bereaved if we see a spike in
Wow,
cases?
this is a good question.
As pawns.
Let's go back, listen to this question, and then listen to the response.
And that is despicable. Emily.
Thank you, Kaylee.
Simonin.
Given that the campaign had attendees of the rally on Saturday sign a waiver to indemnify the campaign if they should get sick with the coronavirus,
this is
would
true.
the president consider starting or contributing to a fund for the sick or the bereaved if we see a spike in cases come out of the rally Saturday?
I think that's a hypothetical, and that's a speculative question.
Yes, as all questions about the future. Are we only allowed to talk about the...
Yes. Thank you, Kaylee. Looking towards the election, we know that the Biden campaign is pushing back on adding any additional debates to the schedule. How many debates would the president be willing to participate in?
Yeah, so the president talked about this yesterday.
Okay, so this is OAN in the back of the room, so we know she's about to wrap up here because that's how she do.
Cases come out of the rally Saturday.
Back on adding...
But yeah, it would be great if the president would say, yeah, I'll take my next $400,000 or $100,000 check for being president, and it will go towards a fund for COVID or something like that. Now we've suddenly become a topic of jelly beans, but I need those jelly beans, people. You know what? I can have like 4 or 5 at a time. The other day, Kevin Lee's son brought home some ice cream, and it was vegan ice cream from Full Tilt. It was salted popcorn, and it was amazing. And also salted popcorn in general is amazing, and salted popcorn belly flops and or jelly beans are also amazing. Go ahead and put in your favorite. If you're out there and you're watching and you're not chatting, now's your chance. Get in your favorite jelly bean before we wrap up for the day. I would like all of you, if you could, just to, I don't know, get some United States Postal flat rate envelopes, fill it with as much jelly bean as you can, and send it my way. I'm just kidding. What kind of moron would send jelly beans through the mail?
Any additional debates to the schedule? How many debates would the president be willing to participate in?
Yeah, so the president talked about this yesterday. The president is
Find the place in the
happy
binder.
to debate when given the opportunity. Right now there are 3 debates, and he's happy with that, but certainly if others were proposed, he'd be willing to look at them, and he very much looks forward to those debates. One thing I would note, and I think it's just very important, especially as we go into the weekend and we begin to look at some of the news coverage out there, is that I would encourage all of you to cover the protest in the same way that you covered the rally goers. It's really quite something when you look at this extraordinary video by Media Research Center and Newsbusters, where you have multiple hosts on MSNBC, CNN, and CBS boasting about the, quote, massive crowd. I mean massive, tens of thousands.
Again, massive is not a boast. You're just pointing out that the crowd is big, like the president's inauguration crowd. But Trump views everything by numbers, how it affects him and numbers. That's the only way Trump's, I almost said brain. Wow, let's get back to Kaylee.
Thousands of people, thousands and thousands, up to 200,000 people, they exuberantly exclaim, but then they have grave concerns about the size of the Trump rallies. You have NBC contributors saying social justice over social distancing, but when the president looks to celebrate the accomplishments for minority and communities in this country, our rallies are derided as breeding grounds for coronavirus, while Lawrence O'Donnell celebrates arm-in-arm protests. So I really think that we should have internal consistency here in the way we cover large crowds. We should be guided by
internal consistency? What?
Lawrence O'Donnell celebrates arm-in-arm protests. So I really think that we should have internal consistency.
Not sure what she's referring to with internal consistency, but I would suggest a daily dose of bran. 1/3 cup.
Here in the way we cover large
Mix it in with some yogurt, some strawberry.
crowds. We should be guided by science, not cherry-picking science, as I see all too often on the airwaves, especially from CNN.
Stay safe. Happy Father's Day to all.
Stay safe. Happy Father's Day. Cherry picking would work as well. They help with the internal consistency. Internal consistency. Okay. No one knows if it's really Friday. I like my jelly beans with extra gluten. That's the way to keep Kevin Lee daughter out of the bag. I purposely buy foods with extra gluten. Where is she? She's not even looking at me. Yeah, you guys stay safe this weekend. David, earlier you sent me something saying that it's National No Mask Day on Saturday, so stay indoors. Remember, people with no mask affect your health. You're wearing a mask to protect them. Oh, what's the story about Nestor, Kevin? Yeah, so I did tweet something about that too. So for those of you not following along at home, Matthew Gaetz, the congressman who called the impeachment hearings a Captain Kangaroo Court and wore a gas mask to the COVID hearings before 120,000 Americans died. Oh, hold on. David says here, we rate Newsbusters right biased based on story. So Snopes rates Newsbusters right biased based on story selection that always favors the right. We also rate them borderline questionable due to the use of poor sources and numerous failed fact checks. Okay, well, so we don't trust Newsbusters, but she's going to quote Newsbusters from the White House desk. You should think about making this fact-checking thing a business, David. You're quite good at it. So we were getting back to Matt Gaetz. Give me just a second here because I had a tweet on the Matt Gaetz thing here. So Matt Gaetz apparently has a son named Nestor, who came from Cuba, 6 years ago? Don't check me on this because I don't really care that much, which is great. But he used that. He's been keeping him secret because I can understand that as a public figure, a politician. You don't want your children ever out there involved. You want to keep your family separate from political matters, especially when you're Matt Gaetz and you're politically charged. Exactly the same reason I never talk about Kevin Lee's wife. You want to keep that stuff secret. Never let it slip out. Let me go and find the thing about Nestor. And I think that's great. If he's got a son and his son loves him and he loves his son, that's fantastic. It's just weird now that the son is 19 and can be used as a political point that out comes Nestor. And I pointed that out on his site. Come on. Twitter never shows you what you want when you want it. Oh, I know what I can do. I can do an actual search. If you don't know, Twitter has a search page. Let's do it together. This comes in very handy. Twitter.com, search advanced. So you can do an advanced search. And I'm just going to search for rifle and Kevin Lee Father right there and search. And it should come up here. Okay, here we go. For all those wondering, let me zoom in for you guys. Boom, there we go. Let's go up here. Can I go up here? I can't. I can go. There we go. For all those wondering, this is my son Nestor. We share no blood, but he is my life, so I'm assuming adopted. I don't know for sure. He came from Cuba, legally, of course, 6 years ago and lives with me in Florida. I am so proud of him, and raising him has been the best, most rewarding thing I've done in my life. That's fantastic. And so my response to that was typically members of Congress use the About Me section to mention the members of their family. But sure, you can go to the National Rifle Association route. Whatever's most important to you, Matt. Yeah, so Matt has an About Me section, and it says, Matt was born in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and... boop, let's click on the image so it comes up, go back to the big main feed. Here we go. And as the son of Don and Vicky Gates, Matt is a lifetime member of the National Rifle Association, which has given him an A+ rating throughout his time in the legislature, and First Baptist Church in Fort Walton Beach. So Matt mentions both his church and the NRA, doesn't mention that he has a Cuban son. Okay, but you know what? I don't really have a problem with that. That's fine. Good for him. More power to you. And if you have found a child, if you've adopted a child, even better. If you have a child, great. Maybe they'll bring you back salted popcorn ice cream someday. I wish that for you all. Let's see. Nothing in high school in LA either, says producer Joanna. Dr. Lisa says, yeah, although the puff pass will be awkward. I don't know what. Oh, he's not legally adopted, according to producer Debbie. Okay, not adopted. Only one Cuban child has been adopted in the U.S. since 1999. I wonder if there's an embargo against that and why Matt Gaetz isn't talking to the president about that. A girl in 2000. Thanks, Mari. Lisa says, my black-tailed prairie dog is my life. Mine too now. Okay, green room. I don't know which, probably in response to Matt Gaetz. I don't know. Matt says he did not actually adopt Nestor, but Nestor is the brother of a girl he was dating. So like a Big Brother program type of thing. This whole thing just makes me wonder why Jim Jordan hasn't reported any of it. Don't infer anything from that comment. Now I want to know what the Puff comment is about, but you know what? Who knows? Tomorrow, make sure to join us because we will be covering the Home Depot Corona Rally live from Tulsa. That happens at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. They're always delayed. 5:30 Newfoundland, 8:30 Newfoundland, 10:30 Newfoundland, sometime in Ireland. I don't know. I'm not sure what time it is in Belgium. And it's next Wednesday in Australia. So watch that live. Bring your chat. Anybody watching at home, if you'd like to chat with us and you're not sure how to figure it out because you're watching on Twitter and it's just not working for you, go to youtube.com/KevinLeeFather. You can subscribe to me there, hit the little bell to get alerts, and that will let you know when we go live. And we'd love to have you in the chat room because, as you can see, far more entertaining than what I'm doing. You can't... there are people who tell me I keep clicking on the chat and it won't work. That chat over there, that's just a rebroadcast of it's an amalgamation. It takes all the chats on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, etc. Twitch, if you want to swear and get away with it. And it puts them all together so that everybody can see from across 4 platforms what people are saying in the chat rooms. Matt says the woman abandoned her brother, so Matt is now raising him. Okay, good for Matt. Good on him. I have no issues with any of that. I make jokes about it, but if that's what Matt is doing, good for Matt. Kevin, good luck tomorrow. Sure, it'll be exhausting. Nah. It's going to be the same old stuff tomorrow about the best economy. It's going to be all stuff that happened before COVID, and it's going to brag about testing, and he'll probably also really, really highlight the HBSUs and talk about law and order. So that's what's going to happen tomorrow. But we'd love you to tune in. And every once in a while, he drops a bomb. Want to get high? Towley from South Park. That is true, Lisa. Barbara in Belgium, 2 a.m. Thank you, Barbara in Belgium. We appreciate that. If you want to see Belgium in Barbara, if you want to see her name, stay tuned for the credits. If you'd like to be in the credits and help me do this sort of thing and really get down to the fact-checking of the matter, then please donate at kevinleefather.com. That'll take you to Patreon where you can sign up. If you'd like to just make a one-time donation, wait until this is gone, and you'll see there's a PayPal link right there. You can just go to paypal.me/Kevin patreon.com/KevinLeeDad. And I am working on something through the Cash App, which is a payment system app. And I'll get $5 and you'll get $5, and it works and it's free. And you get $1 off coffee when you use their debit card to buy coffee. You just there's more on that. I'll get into it next week. The other thing I'm thinking of doing is starting next Wednesday or Thursday, or at your suggestion, what's a good day to raise money for charity? I would love to help out. My departed mother had a charity where she would send girls through school in Kenya. And many of those girls went to teaching college as well and became teachers, and you're just spreading education throughout a developing nation. So that was my mother's pet charity. So I'm thinking of doing that, a charity day. What do you guys think? What's a good day to raise money for charity? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Fridays are always just up in the air. Also, are there days anymore? I can't keep track of any of them. Barbara, sorry that you'll be asleep. You can watch the replay. Noel, I think tomorrow is the longest day of the year. It will seem that way if you're watching the rally with us. So you're correct. Yes, Lisa, the doctor says, stay safe, everyone, healthy, everyone. 2 p.m. in Hawaii. You're right, Marcy. Hawaii, I just found out, extended their quarantine period until the end of July, which is good for Hawaii because they're ramping up. Let's take a quick look at Hawaii here. We're going to let you go in just a second here, kids. And, of course, you can just stop watching anytime. I'm not in control. Okay, Hawaii. But with a third of a cup of bran every day, I am in control. I should advertise for bran. Here's Hawaii. So Hawaii is sort of leveled off the last couple of days. Let's take a look together, kids. Hawaii right here, we were up to just 50 cases a day. This does not separate it by islands, which it really should because they are very distinct in how they're tackling the coronavirus. The different counties are the different islands. So yeah, it was peaking here a couple of days ago, you can see. No, you can't. There you go. Get your fat head out of the way, Kevin. And it's leveled off the last few days. Hopefully that'll come back down again, but it was starting to grow again in Hawaii. Every day is a good day, doctor, if you look at it that way. There are not days. This is just one long, extended nightmare, and I hope to wake up at some point and have some salted popcorn ice cream waiting there for me, courtesy of Kevin Lee's son. If you do get a chance to check out vegan ice cream made with coconut, oh my God, it's good. At least the stuff that Full Tilt carries here in Seattle. I don't know where Full Tilt is otherwise. I don't know if they are otherwise. Scroll down to Iowa. Sure, we can do that. If you want me to check out your state, let's do that now, kids. I'm not going to scroll. I'm going to do it the smart way. Iowa reopened 49 days. It has not ramped down. It's basically taking this ramp like Trump does. And if you're confused by what I'm saying, look how slippery that ramp is. And the last 10 feet, which starts now, you can see he runs down it. Oh, the last 2 feet, but 10, yeah. Anybody else for a state? Pennsylvania, let's check out Pennsylvania. And let's see, they are down. They're down 68% since reopening, so good for you, Pennsylvania. Anyone else? New Zealand, that is not a state, no. New Zealand did have 2 new cases yesterday. It was a few days ago, but again, with New Zealand, they have different days because down on the very south polar portion of the Earth, their days last for 8 days, our time. So we don't really know. Anyone else? California, let's take a look at California. California was not doing well when I looked last time. There they are. Since reopening, they're up 66 points. They never stopped ramping up. This is where I was. 4.1K cases yesterday. Excuse my French, but fuck, California. Californication itself. I just did California. You can see there. Michigan, let's take a look at Michigan, guys. Michigan, down 38%, and Michigan has been very tough. They waited to reopen. You can see they didn't reopen until sometime at the end of May there, and they have been ramping down. They're starting to come back up again, though. A little bit of a bump right here at the end, so be careful in Michigan. And that's even the states like Minnesota, for example, down 68% since reopening. They're starting to ramp up again this last week. Is that the protests? Is that the fact that nobody's wearing masks in the stores anymore? Hard to say. Seattle did a study. Thank you for David sending this to me. David with Snopes sent me an article saying that less than 1% of protesters in Seattle are testing positive. In Seattle, you still can't get tested because we still don't have the testing supplies. We're short a third of the testing supplies we need. But you have to be symptomatic. But if you went to the protest, you can get tested. So they have been testing protesters, and they found less than 1% of the protesters have coronavirus, which is still way too many. And what is less than 1%? Is that 0.99? Is that 0.0001? Just tell us the number. Less than 1%. California, Michigan, Antarctica. Let's find out Antarctica. No, but Alabama is up 332%. Fucking Alabama. Alaska up 223%. Wow, look at Alaska. Now, that's only 33 cases at the spike. But considering per capita, and depending on which per capita you look at, that's not good. Arizona. Yeah, Arizona has been spiraling for a couple of weeks now. Since the 17th of May, they've been going on a steady upwards trajectory, and it looks like from these last couple of days that might begin to do the exponential thing, and we don't want that. And then, did I show you the country as a whole? Here's the country as a whole. Total coronavirus cases, you can't go with that one because that's linear. You can see this is the cases per day. It goes up, it goes down, and usually going up is towards the end of the week. It goes down on the weekends because a lot of states don't report on the weekdays or the weekends. It's been going back and forth, so it's hard to say. But if we look at the actual active cases, we are going up here. That's the active cases. And those should be going down because the farther away from the base, the end of January that this is, the more people have recovered and or died. So that number should be going down, but it's not. So the United States is not in good shape. Florida. Take a look at Florida. Mr. Barton, I don't think you're in Florida, but that's fine. We'll check him anyway. Since reopening, plus 254%. God, and look at this ramp right here. And this has already begun. This is exponential growth right here. So this will begin to become a straight line. Well, a slightly curved line because you have to go forward in time. But on a linear scale, this would look absolutely terrible. Okay, anything else? San Joaquin County is blowing up. Sorry, funny how the states that are spiking have the largest numbers of white supremacists. I'm laughing, but I don't find that funny. Excess death rate, I think UK is the highest. The excess death rate, I don't know, and I don't know where to find that because I haven't. Oh, you mean over what the normal death rate is? Yes. I don't have that bookmarked somewhere, so it would take me a while to look it up. So we'll get to that, though. Maybe next week we'll take a look at that. No, that's a good, Green Room. We'll take a look at that. That's an interesting stat. If you have it, send it to me. Send me a DM, Green Room. Is known to be the governor who killed Mickey Mouse and friends. Oh, God. Yeah. Have I compared Italy with U.S. and the UK? I don't have that chart here. I can probably pull that up pretty quickly because that is out there. Give me a second here. And France was in that. That's been floating around, and it shows that they have been killing the curve, and we have not. Charts. Yeah, I can pull that up on CNBC. Give me a second here. Show me the charts. Show me the charts. Show me the comparative charts. That's not the one I was looking at. Give me a second. I might be able to find an image of it. Okay, and I'm looking for the 4 charts of the 4 countries. And Google is not cooperating there. And go back. I will find it for you guys because World Bank. Come on, give me stuff in the news. No, that's CO2 emissions and stuff because World Bank covers everything. Let me go to the news and I'll find it there. U.S. pulls out of talks to tax tech giant in a blow to Europe's plans. Okay, that's fantastic. There's just too much news on U.S. versus Italy, France. Let me do to COVID. COVID and curve, and that will find it for us. Curve. It's a nice quiet keyboard thanks to you guys. That's part of what I've done with the money from kevinleefather.com if you want to be a Patreon and contribute to stuff like this and help make this broadcast better. A, hire somebody competent, And B, go to kevinleefather.com and put a little bit of money in. Coronavirus updates. Calls for accountability. No, okay, I'm not showing those, finding those charts, but if you guys look at them, you can see how they've basically flattened the curve. Oh, we can do it. You know what, guys? We can do it this way. Let's do it this way. So we've seen the U.S. Let's go back to the U.S. This is going to take a second to load, so forgive me here. This is a New York Times search. Give me a second. Does anybody know where that chart is? Somebody Facebook me or DM me with it. Okay. No. Come on. This is just taking too long to load, guys. Sorry. Okay, there's all the countries. You've seen us. I showed you us a couple of minutes ago. It's starting to go up. Let's go to Spain. Spain only had 300 new cases yesterday. That's the linear scale, so we can't look at that. Total deaths. Daily deaths. Here's a good example of the curve. So their daily deaths have spiked way down. That's a linear. So, okay, so that's what they're giving us for Spain. But we can see that's the curve, and it has been flattened in deaths. And that's a trailing indicator. That's 21 days to 6 weeks ago in terms of deaths. That's how you have to measure that. 21 is usually around hospitalization. Let's go take a look at Italy, see how they're doing. They're doing much, much better with their deaths. In fact, the world, you can see from this, is doing quite a bit better with its death overall. Italy, and we're doing better with our deaths as well, but we're starting to see a growth of a second ramp. And Trump hates ramps. Daily new cases in Italy. Here we go. That is flattening the curve right there. That is fantastic. Let's go back to the U.S. here. Let's do the U.K. since some of you are U.K. related. I haven't done Ireland yet. Let's take a look at Ireland, guys, since a couple of you are Irish-based. Thinking. Here it is. Let's find Ireland. Ireland, not including Northern Ireland. Where are you guys? There you are. Let's take a look at Ireland. And there's your total cases. Linear daily new cases. Ireland, kicking ass. Let's go back to the UK. And the UK, of course, decided they were just going to let things wave through. Thinking about it. Here it is. UK is going to be up here near the top because they have not done well. 1,300 new cases yesterday, 300 cases overall, 300,000 cases overall, 42,000 deaths. Okay, they're doing better. They haven't flattened the curve totally. Well, they haven't killed the curve. They've flattened it, but ideally you want to flatten it to the point where you crush it completely. So UK, not great. Norway, let's do Norway, okay? Here's Norway, and then, of course, if you compare it to Sweden, Sweden has 27% more deaths than they should have year over year. Norway is flat at 0%. Let's give Norway a chance to catch up here. Norway, what we're going to do for Norway is just do the search. No, not North. Or Normay, as the Trump administration would spell it. Daily new cases, go Norway. Let's compare that to Sweden. Norway said, everybody stay inside. Sweden said, fuck that, guys, let's go party. That being said, many of the Swedes did, in fact, stay at home of their own volition, but Sweden didn't do any overall order. Sweden, no reporting so far today on new cases. Total cases, you can see it ramps up. That's linear. Daily new cases, yeah, they are not doing well at all. So at some point, should Sweden do something about that? My thoughts would be yes. Okay, guys, speaking of my thoughts, I want to say thank you to all the wonderful contributors. Here's the new closing credits. We will see you tomorrow. I don't know if I'll see you later today. Rich Mac, if you're in here, we got to get going on that Billy Joel thing again. Bug me about that, because it's very low on the totem pole. Ironically, things low on the totem pole are the most important things. Bet you didn't know that, because you're a racist. Okay, Barb... RM, how about Finland? It's in Russia. It's true. So I just have to look up the Russian stats for that one, RM. Good joke. That's in reference to the new Bolton book, which you don't have to buy. Yeah, Sweden has no social distancing. Joanna, I'm going to try and be safe. Lisa, everybody else, be safe. Everybody in the closing credits, I want you to be safe, because you're my meal ticket. Guys, have a great weekend if you don't watch us tomorrow. Otherwise, tune in tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for the Home Depot coronavirus rally.